We will move on now to the NBA because the NBA is heating up. Kyle doesn't think so. We read your thing last week.
It's getting a little better.
We understand. We go.
People are healthy, man. The league got hit for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Like yesterday when we were talking about the script, you're like, you want to talk about teams, and I was like
what?
I mean, we use the stats. You can't even use the stats right now to judge these teams because no one's been healthy for 60 days. I mean, it's crazy
for forever. So to that point, we said we won't look at the teams. We'll look even more narrow, even more micro. We'll look at players. And when we did that, we realized there's a lot of players heating up right now.
Hooping.
That's why the NBA is heating up. These players are hooping right now. So we're going to do a little NBA heat check. Tell you in the last week or so, maybe 2 weeks, who's really performing well and if it's correlating to their teams winning as well. First one we'll start with, as we should always, that man, LeBron James, the king, because you want to talk about hooping. This man's been going Super Saiyan in the last 2 weeks. The last 8 games, 34.8 points per game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, nearly 2 steals, and a block and a half per game. I mean, but Jake, what did you say? How'd you describe some of the numbers last week or some weeks? Going nuts, going crazy. But the Lakers are only 3-5 in these games, so it's not really having a whole lot of pull. But I don't care, man. I love to see the king hooping. I'm not, a fan of his favorite team, so I just care if he's hooping. I like to see him hoop.
And he's really hooping, and it's crazy. I give him the "See You Again Next Year" award. I didn't know that was going to be so literal that we got to talk about him on the first episode back. But
yeah, any chip he needs, man.
I got to give him the props. I mean, you put out the stats. If you even go advanced stats, he's shooting 68% true shooting, which is ridiculous over the span of games, not over the season.
Tell him why it's ridiculous, though. This is why.
It's ridiculous, just a number historically, but these are numbers only big men reach, right? This is 6th in the league. You can look at other players over the course of the season. It's only centers above him. It's only Rudy Gobert and guys that shoot 10 shots a game and shoot 70%. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And in 132 offensive rating, which is another stat dominated by big men, which is I think the best historically ever is Rudy Gobert with 137. So this span
maybe
of
we don't
basketball,
have to put too much stock into that if it's saying Rudy Gobert is the best.
No, but the reason I want to is
you put stock into the number that he's at 132 and the best is 137.
Giving Rudy Gobert a hard time.
Yeah, but I mean, the crazy part is the Lakers are losing. It's a shame. I fear that this is probably the best stretch of games we're going to see out of LeBron all season until playoffs come around, and they need to make the playoffs. You can't let LeBron have one of the most historic, 2 weeks of maybe of this entire season, of maybe his entire career. Just looking at it, obviously, I'm pulling that out of nowhere, but this is an incredible 2 weeks, and you're 3-5.
Incredible stretch. Yeah.
3-5. I mean, I got to see more out of this team, man.
I don't want to be a broken record, but the issue with this team is not LeBron James. Obviously,
we know.
How about that guy?
Jake, it's not
making 40 M's. With a minus 0.8 box plus minus, that's less than Malik Monk, and you're making $40 million a year. This is why he's the most hated. Not even by me, by his own fan base. We don't have to do that now. We don't have to do that.
We don't have to do that. It was a LeBron segment.
It's already done, to be honest.
It was a LeBron segment. But Kyle, you talk about they have to make the playoffs. What I fear for the Lakers and for LeBron James is LeBron has stopped trying to. Not stop trying, because the assist numbers are still there. What are the assist numbers? 6 assists. That's lower than the last 2 seasons average, which is about 9-10 assists, damn near leading the league. This is now dropping and the points are going up. He stopped trying to get his teammates involved, stopped trying to spread the love, stopped trying to elevate everybody else. He's saying, I'm just going and scoring because that's obviously what we need. Y'all obviously can't do it. So the ball needs to go in the hoop. I'm just going to go and do that. And I think that I don't think that obviously it's not correlating to Lakers wins. That's not how they get into the playoffs. And I don't think that's what he's worried about anymore. I think he's just worried about hooping. It's just we'll fix this next year. We'll fix it in the offseason, but I can't just sit by and watch y'all miss shots. We talked about the clip last week of him throwing 3 straight no-look passes in a 10-second span and them all missing.
And that's why I think he's still I'm tough. That's why I think he's still trying to pass the ball. He's only taken one more shot a game over the course of the season than he did the past couple years. But now in this span of basketball where he really has been hooping, you are probably right there. So, but I mean, that's not getting him wins either. So we're going to see.
That's why I don't think he's worried about it.
Hats off to LeBron. I mean, I like to doubt whenever I can, just because I'm an MJ guy, and I've had the argument so many times that I just residually like want to doubt LeBron and everything. But I still am a fan. Shouts out to what he's doing, man.
Yeah, they need to play him at center, I think, a lot more often, especially with Davis.
He's doing this at center too.
Right.
That's been kind of the key to him producing because they don't have many better options.
Fake center though, 40% usage rate the one game.
Yeah, no, he's not a real center. I mean, well, there's some centers out there now.
I'm just saying way
they don't look like your normal center. So right, yeah, and they don't do things your normal center does. So.
And that barely correlates to wins too. So we'll move on. You talk about a center transcending. Easy segue. We're gonna talk about centers because this guy's hooping too. And when Joel Embiid hoops, when Joel Embiid really gets going, it's one of the coolest things to watch in basketball because a center shouldn't be able to do some of the things that this man does. And like it's just going crazy. So 30 points in 6 of the last 7 games in the last 2 weeks, 33 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.4 steals, and a block 1.7 blocks per game. This comes off 35 and 14 or something like that.
And 10
last night.
He had triple double. He had 10 assists 10, too.
Yeah, and triple double. So come on, man. Talk to him now, JoJo. He's been going crazy. This one is correlating to wins, which is impressive.
Yes.
It normally does with him. In terms of just like the importance that he has to the 76ers. But beyond like the Ben Simmons thing, we don't know if that's going to get resolved this year, next year, never, who knows. One thing that is tangible, is a problem, and is, in my opinion, resolvable is Tobias Harris. And like I usually
he's starting to get mad at y'all too. He's starting to chirp back at the fans
and
now.
That's not,
we're getting to dangerous territory.
I personally, like as a fan, like whatever you need to motivate, I would prefer it not to be your own fans, but whatever you need to motivate you in Philadelphia, do it. I don't care if it's the negativity of the fans. If that's what motivates you to play well, so be it. I'd prefer it not to be that. But
we've seen players use it to motivate them. Sorry, it happens.
I think
we've seen players use it to sit out too.
Yeah, right. I think with Tobias, he will figure it out. But I'm almost wondering if now, I mean, he's like a good guy. Like, I don't mean this in the wrong way, but like, is it not like a time for a change of scenery for him? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's been billed as this number 2 guy next to Joel Embiid. Joel's dominating, and they're still like a just slightly above average team. That can't be the case if you're Tobias Harris with you not producing. So I don't know if that means he goes to the bench and comes off the bench for a couple games with in a big minute type bench role, or if he just gets traded. Either way, Joel Embiid, I mean, what more can you say? The dude is grind. The dude is battling every night, doing the absolute most that he can, and they're still just barely above 500 team. So it's a little troubling.
It does seem like a fizzling out of sorts if it's Tobias Harris, like a dwindling out of his role in the Sixers. And then going back with the fans.
He's run his course. It's been, I mean, the year was the Jimmy Butler year, the quadruple doink Kawhi year. That was the year, and it didn't go our way. And now Tobias has been a little downhill since then, and he couldn't shoot in those playoffs either. I mean, we've known
why do
what
we
we've
give
had.
him $180 million? That's
and Horford too.
That one keeps me up at night. Sometimes
it's tough.
I don't know, because you threw it at Jimmy Butler and he threw it back at you, so you placed it on Tobias's head. Like,
all right, Toby, you're here. Fine.
A hand-me-down max contract. Never seen anything like it.
So we talk about Tobias, talk about the Sixers being 500, but that's not really the full strength team that's 500, right?
No,
Joel Embiid has 8 losses. The Sixers have 8 losses when Joel's not on the court. The difference is the Sixers have 17 wins with Joel Embiid and only 3 without him, right? So, I mean, this team at full strength, I still think is one of the best teams in the East. We just took the game off the Nets. The Nets don't even look as great anymore. I mean, James Harden's been hooping, and he can't even get wins like with Durant on the court too. They've been losing a couple games recently, so I mean, I think this team at full strength is still great. Maxi's turning up now. Him and Joel apparently have incredible chemistry, which was the point someone made. It might have been me actually 3 weeks ago when we talked about that's the key we need. Mm-hmm. Maxi needs to learn how to play with Joel, and now they're all buddy in post game conferences, and he's hooping. So I think Joel I don't think LeBron, like I said last time, can sustain this type of production just from a volume standpoint at age 37, what he was doing. This is the type of production Joel can give every single night. Does he gonna have to take a load management day here or there? Yes. But I think he can give you 30 every single night. I mean, he's done it in more games this year than he hasn't. So, I mean, I'm excited. I think he's playing some of the best basketball of his career right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, shocker, this is going to come down to Joel's health, right? Only 8 losses.
You don't got to bring that up.
Wins. I mean, but I do, man, because it literally might be obviously besides the big elephant in the room, one of the only things holding him back. But Jake, before you go, what I do want to give super credit to Joel Embiid for, I give him credit for making people not forget about the Ben Simmons situation, but move on from it because there's still good stuff to watch about the Sixers. If Joel Embiid kind of folds within this pressure, folds within the situation, it makes this Ben situation so much more glaring, so much more problematic. But with his dominant play, especially in this stretch in the dog days of January, which is why all these players hooping now was so impressive, him doing that is making the Ben situation stay on everyone's, like the back of everybody's mind instead of the forefront of it, because of how he's hooping. And that's really impressive. He doesn't even realize how impressive that is to do that in Philly. He does not realize how impressive that is, what he's doing.
And it's a perfect time to give him his flowers. I don't know how long Joel Embiid's going to play, but what I will tell you is, fast forward to the second year, or rewind, I should say, to the second year of Joel's career, when he had not played an NBA game yet. If you had told me, like, I was the biggest fan of Joel Embiid in the world, if you had told me that he was going to be one of the top 5 players in the league at that point, I would have called you crazy. And, in terms of adversity, in terms of things that he's worked through, I don't know if there's many other players in the NBA who can really stack up in terms of adversity, all doing it all the while in Philadelphia. So this is a perfect time to give Joel Embiid his flowers for the phenomenal player that he has turned into.
Yeah. So we got to move kind of quickly through these next two, but I'm gonna jump ahead to a player, skip over somebody, because I want to jump to this guy. You want to talk about give someone their flowers? How great is it that DeMar DeRozan is still hooping? Kyle, every checkpoint we've talked about with the NBA, most impressive teams at the beginning, ridiculous. Who's at the hot start, who's at the top of the Eastern Conference. Every time we have an NBA checkpoint, DeMar DeRozan's name has come up.
Bulls or DeMar DeRozan. It's crazy.
Bro, because he hasn't stopped hooping ever. And
he's on
a hot
seed. They're the 1 seed now.
Bro, he's on a hot streak again. Crazy. Like 29, 5-5 over the last 11 games with 51, 46, and 79 shooting splits. They're 11-0 in these last 11 games that DeMar DeRozan has played. And since coming back on from COVID, he's led the Bulls to an 8-game winning streak. Like you said, they're the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. DeMar DeRozan is probably top 3 in MVP right now, if not top 2. Some people got him as the number 1. Like, yeah, I don't know. All this makes me so happy. It makes me just so happy.
You gotta go ahead.
You know what's crazy too? Bulls are top of the Eastern Conference right now, right? Let me look. They are. I know they're at the top. What are they? 25-10. The Bulls were probably the team most hit by COVID, as well. Yeah. In terms of inactive players, they played a few games where they could only have like 8 players. Injury wise, they lost Patrick Williams, starting power forward. They just lost the point guard. I forget who, backup point guard, but it hasn't mattered. And it's on the back of this guy. We talk about the team makeup, how it's been so good. Well, Lonzo's missed a couple games recently. The only one that really hasn't missed any games has been Nick Vucevic. And DeMar DeRozan has been the one leading this team to the finish line, to the top of the Eastern Conference. That's what's ridiculous to me. He's second best year for him right now in terms of points per game. We're talking about a guy on the latter half of his career and probably past his prime, but making us rethink how big is his prime? I think it's ridiculous what he's doing now. And we say it every week, and I kind of don't get over the hurdle. Like, yeah, it's DeMar DeRozan. Yeah. But now what I'm seeing, it's like, nah, this is new DeMar DeRozan. He's next level now. Yeah.
Oh my, triple D, different DeMar DeRozan. That's crazy. But can we also not only just MVP talk, but most improved too? Because these numbers are not dipping, and are not. It's not as much of a gap as other players, but to me, to do it like this year, or this stage in your career, it's so impressive.
If he finishes 27 points a game at the end of the season, where he's at right now, I could see it.
I give him some nods for it.
This is like classic San Antonio fog coming over his because you remember before he went to San Antonio, he was kind of that dude
Yeah.
in Toronto. 27.3 points per game in 2016-17. That was when they were the 1 seed, I believe. So, I mean, look, like when he was on Toronto and playing at this level, they were the 1 seed. They ran into LeBron James. No LeBron James in the Eastern Conference anymore. So Chicago Bulls fans have something to be excited about for sure.
No, that's really awesome. And then we'll give it an honorable mention shout out to these two before we move on to winners and losers. Honorable shout outs to both Bradley Beal and Trae Young for different reasons. One, Bradley Beal, his stretch is crazy, but it's only been 3 games since coming back off of COVID, since returning from injury. 30 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists. The Wizards are 2-1. So small sample size. Trae Young is a different one. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I believe it's like 34 points, 10 assists, and a couple some odd rebounds in the last 8-9 games. That one, we're gonna gloss over.
56?
56, 56 burger last night. And a win,
Crazy.
too. Give him a win because not many of these games have been wins. That's why we're giving Trae Young just an honorable mention shout out because it's not leading to pretty much any wins except for the 50 burger last night. Also, shout out to Jaylen Brown's 50 burger the other,
56
other night ago.
And Trae Young, impressive. 14 assists last night, too, I believe.
But they just run
at his best, he's among the league leaders in both.
Yeah, but that's like a game no one in the league puts up.
But the thing is, it's like no one in the league runs like he obviously has a skill set, but like also they run him in so many pick and rolls. It's like, okay, is the pass not there? Then we're going to let Trae cook. Is the pass there? It's going out to a knockdown shooter or an alley-oop to a really good rim runner. So
I mean, their team is built just like that.
There's like 3 molds on their team. There's one Trae Young, and then there's a bunch of shooters and a bunch of like John Collins, Clint Capella.
Yeah,
it's crazy. There's no unique players on that team.
That's actually hilarious to think about. I've never you broke it down perfectly. There's
like Cam Reddish can get like a little in between spot of like a shooter and like a playmaker. But like
maybe,
3-and-D wing is the other mold.
Yeah, to me, Cam Reddish just happened to be like the surprise anomaly in that. But when they picked Cam Reddish, they went for the same mold. They went for the same DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Herter mold. They went for the same mold. They were just like, but this guy's looks a little bit better. This guy's got a little bit more flavor. Cool, but we still picked them for that role. And then then you got the Big O, the Clint Capella, that kind of role.
Crazy.